Okay, let's quickly talk about EBS. EBS stands for Elastic Block Store. EBS is the primary storage of EC2 server on AWS. It is a storage that helps our EC2 server to keep data permanently, so that anytime our server crash or maybe something happened to our server, those data that are on our server are always kept on EBS. And that is why it's one of the most important parts of EC2 server. Now, when we delete our EC2 server, does this EBS get deleted? The answer is yes, and the answer is also no. It depends on the setting that is being configured on our EC2 server. On our EC2 server, during the launching time, there is a configuration that is called delete on termination. If we tick this particular aspect of configuration on our EC2, the moment we delete our EC2 server, all the data on the EBS get deleted. But if we uncheck this particular configuration on our EC2 server during the launching time, our EBS will keep our data permanently. And whenever we need our data, we can use it. Even if our EC2 server crash, we can still continue using it. Now, the funniest part about EBS is that when one EC2 server crash, or maybe one EC2 server get infected with malware, after some forensic analysis, we can easily remove that particular EBS volume that is attached to that EC2 server that crashed. We can easily remove it and add it to our new server as secondary storage, so that we can be able to retrieve all our old data into the new EC2 server, so that there will be no loss of any data. And that is one of the important aspects of EBS volume. Now, for better understanding, when you visit Netflix login page and you fill in your details, your username and your password, and you notice that the moment you click on submit or login, automatically you log in. It doesn't show you any spinning bar. And the reason that was made possible is because of EBS volume. EBS volume improves the latency of EC2 server. So that server that they are using for that login page has an EBS volume that make it very, very fast. That make it to quickly check your database for your data or your credentials, so that you can easily log in without wasting your time. So EBS volume improves latency on any EC2 server that it is attached to. And that is one of the most important aspects of EBS. Now, as a solution architect or cloud engineer, anytime you want to assign EBS volume to your EC2 web server, if it is production server, maybe a website, login page, or a cart page, or checkout page, you need to know the amount of storage volume you need to assign. But in most organizations, they usually start with 20 gigabytes to 100 gigabytes. And they monitor this EBS volume using CloudWatch alarm, so that once the EBS volume reach about 80% storage, they will get an alert telling them that their EBS volume has covered 80%, remaining 20%. And as a result of that, they can easily go to the EC2 web server and increase it. Mind you, it is easier to increase the EBS volume while the EC2 server is running in the production system, but it is not easy to decrease it while it is running. And you can increase it while it is running to prevent any downtime for the customers. So that's one of the sweetest parts of EBS volume. Now, another aspect of it is that EBS volume is regional scope. When I mean regional scope, it simply means that when you create an EBS volume on maybe US East 1, you can only attach it to a server that is within that region, which is US East 1. For you to migrate or move any EBS volume from one region to another, you have to do what they call snapshots. And when you do that snapshot, you have to go to the next region and restore it on the new EC2 server you are just launching. So that is how to make EC2 EBS volume to be versatile and used in multi-region. So to use it in multi-region, you have to take a snapshot of the one you have in one region and go and install it in another region. This EBS volume that we are talking about is like the USB drive that we use. You know, our USB, we can attach it to our computer, maybe to download something on it. Then we can remove it and also take it to another computer and install something on it. So that is exactly how EBS volume look like. But the one we are talking about here, it is not physical. It is not a physical hard drive. It is what? It is virtual. That is always attached to any EC2 server that we want to launch, so that it can keep data on those EC2 server permanently or temporarily. Now, for every EC2, you can attach one EBS volume to one EC2. You can attach 2 or 3 EBS volume to one EC2. You may decide to just create EBS volume without attaching it to any EC2 web server. It is permitted and it is allowed. But you just need to understand that EBS volume is the primary storage of our EC2 web server. It is the one that helps us to keep data persistently, so that whenever EC2 gets infected or get deleted or restarted, all our data on that particular EC2 can actually remain intact without being lost. So that is the major essence of EBS volume as the primary storage of EC2 web server. In our next class, we are going to talk about how to do snapshots, so that we can be able to use one EBS volume from one region in another region, just like a solution architect or cloud engineer. So I hope you like this video. Follow. See you in my next video.